Paris, July 14th, 1789. Chaos erupts as revolutionaries storm the Bastille, tearing down centuries of monarchy in a single day. But what if that day never came? What if kings still ruled and democracy remained just a dream? Well, today we'll dive into this alternate history to uncover how a world without the French Revolution may have unfolded. Chapter 1. France, a kingdom frozen in time. To understand what might have been, we first have to step back into pre-revolutionary France. By the late 18th century, France was on the edge of collapse. Decades of war, extravagant spending, and a broken tax system had crippled the economy. The nobility and clergy paid little to no taxes, leaving the burden on peasants and the rising bourgeoisie. Meanwhile, failed harvests pushed the countryside to the brink of famine. Bread, the very symbol of survival, became unaffordable, fueling anger and desperation. Now, imagine this pressure never erupted into revolution. Instead, maybe Louis XVI introduced mild reforms, slashing spending, raising taxes on nobles, or granting the estates generals more influence. Would it have been enough, or would have merely postponed the inevitable collapse? One possibility is that France may have followed Britain's path toward constitutional monarchy. Gradual reforms could have shifted power from the king to elected representatives, avoiding the violence of revolution while preserving royal influence. But another scenario is darker, one where the monarchy clings to power, enforcing harsher crackdowns on dissent. Secret police, censorship, and exile might have become tools to silence reformers, pushing France deeper into authoritarianism. Imagine the consequences. Reforms might have been crushed, preserving a rigid feudal order well into the 19th century. Peasants could have remained tied to the land, denied opportunities for upward mobility. The bourgeoisie, frustrated by stagnation, may have turned to underground movements, perhaps even sparking revolution later, but with even more violence. Chapter 2. The Enlightenment without action. The Enlightenment was already setting Europe ablaze with radical ideas: freedom, equality, and the rights of man. Philosophers like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu questioned the divine rights of kings and promoted democracy. But without the French Revolution, those ideas may have just remained ideas. Consider Rousseau, whose concepts of the social contract argued that governments must serve the people. Without the revolution, his work might have been seen as idealistic but unrealistic. Similarly, Voltaire's sharp critiques of tyranny may have been dismissed as just mere literary exercises. Olympe de Gouges, who demanded equality for women, may have faded into obscurity. Even the United States may have felt this impact. Inspired by the Enlightenment, America's founders created the first modern republic, but their experiment in democracy was fragile, and revolutionary France became a key ally. Without France's support, could the fledgling American republic survive British hostility? Or would the Enlightenment's ideals have spread anyway, through gradual reform or other smaller uprisings elsewhere? Chapter 3. Europe without revolutionary dominoes. The French Revolution wasn't just a French affair. It sent shockwaves through Europe. Kings trembled as revolutionaries executed Louis XVI, fearing that their own crowns might be next. In our timeline, these fears fueled wars across the continent. Monarchies allied against revolutionary France, but the revolution's momentum and Napoleon's rise shattered old regimes. But without revolution, the domino effect never begins. The Holy Roman Empire might have survived into the 19th century. Austria and Prussia could have remained dominant, enforcing a rigid order that crushed nationalist movements. Imagine Poland, partitioned by empires in the late 1700s, remaining divided, with no hope of independence. Or Spain's colonies in Latin America, without the revolutionary spark, maybe remained under European control for decades longer. Even Italy and Germany might have remained fragmented, delaying their unifications and preserving the old feudal systems. Would this have brought stability or stagnation? Would Europe have avoided wars or just simply delayed them? Chapter 4. No Napoleon, no empire. Of course, the French Revolution didn't just end monarchy, it paved the way for Napoleon Bonaparte. Rising from obscurity, he turned revolutionary chaos into a military juggernaut, crowning himself emperor and reshaping Europe. But without that revolution, Napoleon is just another officer. There's no Napoleonic code that abolished feudalism. There are no wars that redraw the map of Europe. Think about Germany and Italy. Their modern borders owe much to Napoleon's conquests, which weakened old empires and inspired nationalism. Without him, would these regions still be fragmented into dozens of petty kingdoms? And what about the Americas? Napoleon's wars forced him to sell Louisiana to the US. Without that deal, America's expansion might have stalled, leaving vast territories under French control, or even falling into British hands. Even Haiti's slave rebellion, inspired by revolutionary France, might have failed, prolonging slavery in the Americas. Chapter 5. The Economic Impact. Feudalism endures. Economically, the French Revolution dismantled feudalism, replacing it with free markets and property rights. Without it, France's economy may have remained stagnant, locked in outdated systems of privilege and monopoly. Peasants, still bound to aristocratic landlords, might have faced even greater poverty as industrialization swept through Britain and Germany. And speaking of industry, would the Industrial Revolution itself have slowed without France's example? Revolutionary reforms freed up labor, promoted trade, and encouraged technological innovation. But in a world without revolution, economic growth might have been concentrated in Britain, leaving France and much of Europe lagging behind. Chapter 6: Colonialism and Global Consequences. The French Revolution inspired revolutions far beyond Europe. Haiti's slave revolt, the first successful rebellion of its kind, was deeply influenced by French revolutionary ideals. Without it, Haiti might never have gained independence, and slavery could have endured there for decades longer. The same applies to Latin America. Leaders like Simón Bolívar and José de San Martín drew inspiration from the revolution to fight for independence from Spain. Without that ideological spark, could Spain's empire have lingered well into the 19th century? Chapter 7: The Church and Religion. Holding firm. The revolution didn't just topple kings, it stripped power from the Catholic Church, confiscating lands and ending its control over education and politics. Without that blow, the church might have retained its grip, enforcing conservative values and resisting secularization. Would Europe have remained more religiously dominated? Would laws still be rooted in theology rather than reason? Chapter 8: Human Rights. Delayed or denied? Perhaps most importantly, the revolution championed human rights, equality before the law, freedom of speech, and protection from tyranny. Without it, would these principles have emerged elsewhere or have been smothered by authoritarian regimes? Women's rights, workers' unions, and anti-slavery movements gained momentum because of the revolution. Without that foundation, would social justice movements have been postponed by decades or even centuries? And in conclusion, was the revolution inevitable? So what if the French Revolution never happened? Would kings still rule? Would peasants still labor under feudal lords? History is a way of breaking through even the most rigid systems, but the French Revolution, it didn't just happen. It accelerated change, forcing the world to confront inequality and power head on. So what do you think? Would the world be better or worse if the revolution never happened? Let us know in the comments, and hey, don't forget to like and subscribe for more alternate histories that reimagine our past.